start the recording and then I can stop sharing my screen and take us to trying to exit everything. Let me go back to the meeting. I can see you guys.
I started the recording, so I think Bill can go ahead and take over.
Okay.
Right?
What an amazing bunch of speakers you've got coming up. I'm
Yes.
going to have to come and sit in on some of those. That's
Yes.
absolutely amazing.
We would love to have you, Bill.
I'm honored to be among those groups of folks, and quite a lot of different events you have going too,
Yeah.
which is just
Yes.
amazing.
Yes, I think we had some latecomers. So Bill Dow is someone that I reached out to after seeing him. I think you spoke with a San Diego chapter
did,
or
yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
chapters, and
Yeah.
I love data, metrics, reporting. I think it's such a important component, but it can be so scary, right? Or it could be useless, depending on what you're using it for or how you're using it. So I thought it was a very good presentation and a good topic to bring to Central Illinois. And so we have Bill Dow who will go through that. So Bill, do you want to go through your bio? Because
I'll take care of that. Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Go ahead and take the floor.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all very much. And I really appreciate being here. And like I said, it's an honor to be here and an honor among all those different speakers as well. So let's jump into it. So thank you all. And so this presentation is about how can project managers use data to make smarter project decisions. So like I said, my name is Bill Dow. Excited to be here. Let's jump into it.
Yep.
Okay, your projects will continue to fail. I'm just going to say that again. Your projects will continue to fail. All right. And the question is do you know why? Right? Do you know why they'll fail? But before I do that, get into that, let me do an introduction. And who am I? So my name is Bill Dow. I have 30 plus years of hands-on experience. I'm a director of a large university at University of Washington. I was at Microsoft for 14 years. I ran 8 PMOs there. I've been a presenter and a speaker around the world, from London, England, to India, to Las Vegas, to Toronto, to San Diego. And I'm also a 7-time author. So the PMO Lifecycle, Building, Running, Shutting Down, Project Management Communication Tools, Tactical Guide for Building a PMO back in 2008, Project Management Communication Bible, Project PMO Service Offerings, PMO Continuous Status Monitoring. My latest book is Project Management Communication 2.0. So I love this stuff. I love data, like Renee was saying. I love project management. I love PMOs, and I love sharing and being able to kind of go through my experiences and my background with you. In 2020, I was named top 16 in the world from PMO Global Awards, 2021, top 3, 2022, top 8. So it's really an honor to be recognized around the world year after year after year. So, but let's jump into it. So my bold statement, your projects will continue to fail. Do you know why that is? And like Renee said, I can see the chat, and so I do have the chat up, and so we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. I love the smaller groups, so let's jump into this. But do you know why your projects will fail? And the reason is because project managers use their gut to make project decisions. Okay, so project managers will use their gut to make project decisions, and they're not using data. And this is a huge problem. I see it all the time, right? I've had PMOs, up to 30 project managers working for me on a very regular basis over the last 20 years, and they're constantly using their gut to make project decisions. And when you do that, projects fail, right? If you don't use data to make project decisions, your projects will fail. I've seen it time and time again. Does that make sense? And again, let's use the chat. So I do have a question for you. So let's fire up the chat button, everyone. And I really quickly in the chat, let's just say yes or no. Do you use your gut to make project decisions? I'm seeing yeses. Carrie says yes. Kathy, yes. Pamela, sometimes. Sadly, yes. Yep. Maria said yes. Sandy, hopefully not. Awesome. Okay, good. That got you warmed up. That was really easy. I see lots of yeses. I don't see anyone saying no, so that's interesting. And so I like that. So most of them are yeses, so that's okay. Let's get through this. All right. So the truth is, right, project managers are busy. There's no question they're busy. And taking time to review this data, right, looking at their project data will be deemed as administrative overhead. I don't have time. I'm too busy. Well, what are you busy with? What are you doing, right? Well, you're managing multiple projects, right? There's no question long gone are the days where you just have one single project. We're all working in a remote environment, which makes communications, so much more harder, right? To really build those bonds and build those relationships, it makes it really tough. You're dealing with countless stakeholder challenges, countless project problems. You're also dealing with vacation and time off and team meetings and administrative things around just being an employee in a lot of cases. So we get that project managers are busy. There's no question project managers are busy, and I'm not discounting that. I get that. I'm surrounded by hundreds of projects on a regular basis in my current PMO and all the PMOs I've ever ran. So the question is, how do we help project managers go from using their gut to using data, right? How do we do that? And so that's fundamentally what we're going to walk you through today. So I believe strongly it starts with two concepts. And the concepts are art and science. Right? We've all heard those before, right? Just in the chat, you've heard of art and science before? Art and science of project management? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So I believe it comes down to that, right? I believe it comes down to art, which is really the ability to drive relationships, build bonds, establish trust, and really connections with your team members. That's the art. And the science is the ability to fill in status reports, do a schedule, drive risks and issues, right? And really kind of do that tactical deliverables. And would you all agree too, that you need both skills to be successful in this role? Yes, no? Do you think you can just can you just be good at art and bad at science, or bad at science and good at art and be good in the role? Or do you absolutely need both?
You need both.
You need both. Got it. All right, so let's spend some time on each. Okay, so when we look at art, right, this is often where project managers ignore, right? This is one of the concepts where, they just ignore it. They just don't necessarily do this and think about this in the same way as they think about the other components, okay? So how do we get good at art, right? How do we do that? Well, you need to build good team and personal relationships, right? You need to be human, be kind, don't drive everything with tools. I can't stress that enough, right? Hitting dates are key. Everyone wants to hit on time and on budget, I get that, but you don't do that and ruin relationships. Right? I always say project management's a long game, right? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if you're in this, I've been doing this for 30 years. It's a long game, right? You can do this for hopefully much longer, right? So really think about that. And then understanding, listening, empathy, they're all keys to art and really building good art and good relationships on your projects. Okay? All right, so now let's look at science. So science, that's the logs, the forms, the templates, all the tactical. What I like about this, or what I often say is, it's the data of your project. So it's the schedule, the risks, the issues, the decisions, the actions, the blah, 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 all that technical data to do your project. Now, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I'm going to try to open some different views into this. So we understand art, we understand science, and we understand both of them. Okay, But now what we got to do is we have to convince project managers to embrace the science. So I've worked with a lot of project managers that just ignore their risk and issues, ignore their schedules, and ignore their issue logs and action logs and decision logs because they're all about relationships and building good team communications and all that. And that's great, but that hurts you from a data perspective. So do you guys all know those types of project managers that are amazing at art, but don't embrace the data? Seen those before? Yeah. Of course, right? So we've seen that before, right? So the question is, how do I turn data, try to get there on my quick, how to turn data or science into decisions, right? So how do you do that? So data is data. I'm going to say this lots. Data is data, but you can't make decisions from data. You make decisions from knowledge. Okay? Data flows through a life cycle to eventually become information, and information becomes knowledge, right? Everyone says you got to have data to make decisions. You got to have data to make decisions. That's true, but it's a journey. Okay? It's a journey because data by itself, you can't make decisions. Okay? Not controversial. It's a journey. And here's that journey. Okay? So what happens is it's a 4-step process. So data turns into information, which turns into knowledge, which then you can take action. Okay? And it's the journey that it goes through to help you take that action, because data by itself needs to go through this journey. So has anyone seen this triangle before? Yes, no? No? Okay. Awesome. All right, perfect. Very good. So let's jump into it. So let's take time now. And the question is, how do you turn data into decisions? So let's take time and let's go through this and really make sure you understand that journey. So then you can figure out how you can make smarter project decisions with this data. Okay? Data is amazing. We love data. We're surrounded by data all the time. But data is just data. Okay? All right, it all starts with data. We love data, right? You can't act or make decisions on data. It has to go through that process. It gets to a point where you can take actions, but it's just data. So what is data, right? Well, it's stating the obvious here, but in project management world, project management data is the data we're talking about. So risk data, issue data, budget data, action item data, decision data. So once you have that data in your logs, you need to start compiling that data, right? And start formulating information from that data. Does that make sense? Just want to pause there because you've got risk logs, you've got issue logs, you've got action logs, you've got a bunch of logs, you've got schedules and budget, you have a bunch of logs that are all just sitting there on your projects. Now, everyone's using risk and issues and actions and decisions, right? That's not foreign. Everyone's got that? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Jeff, Kim. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now let's get into it. So data by itself is good, but information's better. But information by itself is often unconnected or isolated. Right? And this is the key. Therefore, you have to connect the data together to become knowledge. Okay? So we've got a project. It's got a budget in the risk log for many, many months. You've got a budget risk sitting in the risk log. It just says budget risk. That's information. Okay? On the same project, we see month over month over month, the project goes under budget, over budget, under budget, over budget. True story on one of my projects. I'm like, what is going on? Why is it going over budget, under budget, over budget, under budget, right? That too is information, but it's unconnected, or it could be unconnected. The question is, why is it going over and under budget? right? We also see a budget risk item in the risk log, right? By itself, it's information. It's really around the why. So when you think about information becoming knowledge, you're starting to solve the why. Why is it going over budget? Why is it going under budget? Okay, over budget, under budget, over budget, the why. So you're taking unconnected or potentially unconnected data and you're turning them into knowledge. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we have knowledge. So knowledge is about gaining more information about the data. So project managers need to connect data together in the information stage to create knowledge and then act on that. Okay, so once you have knowledge, you can make decisions, drive actions, and successfully execute your project, right? So you have knowledge and then you can act. Okay, so for example, a budget risk on the risk log and the project's budget variance going up and down must be connected and investigated. Connecting two together and understanding the why gives you the information and gives you the knowledge. Okay, so the analysis is about simply identifying risks and issues. It's not about that. It's about reviewing and evaluating and deciding. Okay, and then what are the connection points between them? And when you have those connection points, you can make smart project decisions. Just want to pause and make sure that makes sense. Are you tracking to that? And do you see how the information flows? You can see that they're sitting in logs, but there's something happening. And you start thinking about connecting those two together. Because the question is, how are you making smart project decisions if you're not going through this process right now? Right? How are you making those smart decisions? And it does make you ponder, right? It does really like, I'm surrounded by all this data, but am I making smart project decisions, or are there smarter project decisions that I could make with this information? Can you guys see that connection, or can you see how you can look at these things very differently? Because it's not about just shoving stuff into logs, right? It's not about just getting them in there. It's about getting them in there and seeing how your project's executing over budget, under budget, over budget, under budget, and then figuring out what to do with that, right? And these are just hundreds of different examples that could occur, but when they just sit independently in logs, they're just data. And it's the why, and it's following that process that will really help you drive through exactly what you should be doing on these. Okay? Make sense? Okay, so then what we want to do is we want to take action. So now the action is, now you've taken the project data through those 3 steps, you're at a point where you can take action. You can make a smart project decision. So in this particular case, the budget issue, you could do nothing, and that's probably not a case. Or you could sit with the finance team and say, hey, finance team, is it the actuals? Is it the estimates? Why is this thing going up and down every month? What's occurring on your processes that's causing that to occur? Or you sit with the project team and you go, hey, is it the estimates? Is it the actuals? Like, what are you guys doing to make this thing go up and down? But it's around understanding the data sitting in the logs, what's occurring on the project, and then connecting them all together. Does that make sense? So the question really is how powerful is this triangle right now? How powerful is it to take data to information, to knowledge, to action? Now, can you see that? I just want to pause here for a sec. Can you see doing that for your projects? Can you see taking that time and starting to connect through? Or can you see some examples of your current projects today where you could sit back and go through this process? What do you think? I can see the chat, so let me know in the chat. Do you have scenarios now of you've got this data and you're filling the logs and you've got all the processes in place to fill the logs, but you don't step back and actually figure out or spend time reviewing that. Or do you have a process in place to review that? Let me know in the chat. Jeff does, yeah. So Jeff, you have a process, or you look at all your logs and you see how they're all connected, and then you apply that to what's actually happening in the project. And you're essentially going through these 4 stages, and then of course you take action on them.
So that was actually a response to your previous question. But,
sorry.
Yes,
Okay.
I would say it's not a formal process, but that is a flow that I go through as I evaluate information.
That's great. Yeah, because so many project managers just want to check that box of getting risks in and getting actions in, and just, I got my logs, I'm filling the stuff in, but it's really stepping back and spending the time to understand how the project's executing, and then what you're seeing in the logs to then be able to make those decisions. So Dusty, you're doing this. I'm doing this today in some areas. Yeah, what areas are you doing them in, Dusty?
It's more, I would say, so one example I have, I don't know how I can explain this to folks, but it's regarding a group of people that need to make some testing requirements. And if they do, there's one action. If they don't, there's another action.
Yeah,
and so we're planning the how we're going to handle all of the processing of this, and where they're trending is determining how we're going to handle the process.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So a lot of you are probably doing this, but you're doing this and you're doing this, but you're not really thinking about how you're doing this, right? And so that's that whole saying, hey, we need data to make decisions. You do, and it's clearly the starting or the base of the triangle, but it's got to go through this process, right? It's got to be connected. And this connected versus unconnected is really a key component to making this successful. Yeah, other thoughts or questions on that? Because I think this is the root of this, right? Is really understanding how data flows, project information flows, to then be able to make the discussion. Yeah, Sandy, that'd be great.
Hi there.
Hi.
We've been through the first couple of phases on multi-factor authentication project at my university. First employees, then students. And we are small enough to be able to have done this on that project, where we have our director of information security who's kind of building out what people are going to see in the screens. We're identifying our risks. We've got our director of data strategy and architecture who's bringing the data daily to show who's enrolled. With the director of the service desk there showing who's opened trouble tickets, so we know how many people are having trouble, how many people have enrolled, how many people are yet to be enrolled. And we met very frequently during the implementation phase of that, so that we took that data, we talked about how that data from different units addressed our current project, how it related, that became knowledge, and then we determined the action. So I would say we did that regularly throughout that project.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's it exactly, right? You could have very easily thrown those into risk logs, thrown them into issue logs, and tackled them. But when you're starting to do that analysis on that data, that just makes a huge process on how you're going forward. So that's a wonderful example, and that resonates very, very well, because that's exactly what we're talking about. You could have just shoved them in the logs, though. Right?
Yeah, when it comes to students, there are very key stakeholders and important customers of ours, and we just didn't want to make any mistakes, right? We had to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
So we knew the stakes were high, and so we wanted to stay really tightly connected as we move forward together.
Yeah. Oh, that's smart. That's awesome. Cool. Okay, good. Well, so everyone's getting it, right? So you get it. Now, there's a timing to this. So how I started this off was project managers are busy. Everyone's busy. We get that. But when you don't take that time to analyze the data, you're probably not making the right level decisions. You're making decisions, there's no question. And they're probably great decisions. but you could probably make better decisions when you're basing it on data, right? And so people don't often fight data, right? They often go, okay, I get it. I can see the data and why you're making that decision. So that's awesome. That's great. So I just wanted to pause there. I just wanted to make sure that we are kind of tracking and making sure, because it's the root of really what you need to go through. But I am not discounting how busy project managers are. It's just a matter of what decisions are you going to make and what's the risks around those decisions on whether you want to go through this process. This process doesn't have to be long. It's only a 3-step process, basically a 4-step process, but it's a smart process to really understand your data. Okay? All right. So now what we want to do is we want to get into some dashboards and reports. So I love this topic. I absolutely love it. I have a course on it. I love Power BI. I love this material. I just absolutely love it. And I think to really get your data out there and really understand the decisions you have to make, you have to have a series of dashboards and reports to be able to produce that. Because you want to show this data, right? Pointing people to risk logs and issue logs to try to make decisions or actions, you really need dashboards and reports. So question even for the chat is, do you guys all have dashboard and reporting like a Power BI or a Tableau, or do you have various dashboard and reporting tools? Okay, yeah, love Power BI. So do I, Jeff. Yeah, Sandy does as well. Yeah, so most PMOs, most organizations is starting to really understand we need project data to be able to get this stuff out there and really show where our projects are tracking and how we can, show what's going on in our projects. And so you're going to do that through dashboards and reports. Okay. I just want to give you a couple different ways of looking at this and some of the examples. Okay. So projects sit in various logs, right? There's no question they sit in risk logs and issue logs and action logs and blah, blah, blah. They're sitting in all these logs. But to make smart decisions, you need data. And so data-driven project managers take data and use that to make decisions, of course, through that 4-step process. So I really love that data-driven project manager statement, because that just changes the game. And if you want to change your maturity and you want to grow in this field, you becoming data-driven really will help you differentiate yourself between other project managers. So really embrace the data, embrace the term, and really understand how much you can grow your career when you start basing on data. Okay, executives love data as well. And so that's just a kind of a little career tip to kind of drive your career forwards. But from a from a dashboard and reporting perspective, I got Power BI on the head. From a dashboard and reporting perspective, there's countless dashboards and countless decisions and countless reports you can create. But what do you get out of that, right? So why is that valuable? What can you get from using reporting type of tools? And I look at it 2 different ways. There's flexibility, meaning you can ingest and combine data together, right? You can format, you can take it from different locations, different users, different SharePoint sites, all that different data, and you can bring it in. The flexibility of like that is crazy. And then the insights, right? What are the insights of all the data that you've brought into, right? Into this reporting tool, Power BI, Tableau, whatever the case may be. So the benefits are really twofold: flexibility and insights. Okay. And then what happens is having these tools allows you to normalize the data and then take you from data to knowledge to action. And I'd asked you guys if you'd seen that before, because it's actually called the BI loop. So you can go and you can Google that and Bing that and whatnot, and you should be able to see that same sort of transformation, a thing called the BI loop. Okay. So again, really, really benefits. Some of you are already using it, Monday.com. Some of you are already using those types of tools. But here's just one example, right? You're seeing schedule, you're seeing budget data, task data, risk data. BI loop, Sandy, BI loop. And so you're seeing, basically, you're seeing a set of data on these projects or on these dashboards that you can then make decisions from, okay? A metric dashboard, right? Now you're starting to see some metrics, financial status, processes, hours, customer satisfaction. You're seeing some dashboards and metrics where, again, you can make some decisions. A resource dashboard, you're seeing resource costs, you're seeing resource assignments, you're seeing a great bubble chart of the resources, right? Some cost data from a resource perspective. You're seeing a risk and issue dashboard, right? Project issues, project risks. You're seeing that you're seeing a graphical view and you're seeing a tabular or kind of a table view. And these two types of views are very, very valuable because you've got people that are text-based people that will want to take this down to Excel and do what they want with it. And you're seeing the graphics side because people can consume that. Graphics people can consume that much quicker. Okay. You're seeing the risk project dashboard there, right? You're seeing, again, a bubble chart and a list of risks. And you're always seeing that I'm always applying graphics and text to these dashboards. But again, these are the ways of taking your risk log and your issue logs and your schedules, putting them into a dashboard so you can make project decisions. Okay, this is just pure data, but again, it's the combining of the data, creating the knowledge, and then connecting those together to make the decisions. Want to keep going? I can keep going. The resource dashboard, okay, scheduled hours, actual hours, right? Again, you can slice and dice this data up a million different ways to be able to make smarter decisions. But again, you need dashboards. You're not going to send people to risk and issue logs or SharePoint sites that got hundreds of risks and issues. They're not going to consume it that way. They need you to connect it. They need you to formulate the information, formulate the knowledge to then present it for them for decision and action taking. And I think that's such an important part of having these dashboards and reports, by literally formulating that 3-step process, getting it onto a dashboard, and then making decisions with your project team, your executives, your customers, whoever the case may be. But it's really around presenting it in a nice graphical way that they can consume it, and then obviously making those decisions. Does that make sense? Great. Okay, I got just a couple more here. Or just one more, sorry. And so again, an issue and change dashboard. And again, we can do report after report. We can just do these all day, right? And it's really around hosting your project information and to be able to really get that information out there to make decisions. All right. So I have just one more slide here, and we'll just wrap up real quick. And so again, really important, start considering walking through your data through that 4-step process. I really can't stress enough, right? Data's just data, but you gotta have that process to go through that. And then ensure you're thinking about connecting data together, right? So looking at the various issue and risk logs, looking at your schedule, look at what's happening during the life of your project, and go, where is that? Where are we tracking that? Right? We're seeing the project or the budget go up and down and up and down. Where are we tracking that? Do we have a risk? Do we have an issue? What are we doing about that? And then again, dashboards and reports from a future perspective, right? Embrace that data-driven project manager, embrace dashboards, embrace reports, because it's going to help you visualize the data, present the data, and then take actions and directions on that data. All right. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to offer you guys, a lot of people ask for these slides. And so what I wanted to offer, and I'll put it right in the chat, but what I wanted to offer was the download of this. So you can actually grab that ebook. I'll get it in the chat in a second. But basically you can get a copy of the ebook, which are essentially the slides that will walk you through this exact same information. All right, and so I'm going to wrap that up. I'll put that in the chat in a second. Here's all my contact information. The books are up on Amazon. Here's all my contact information. Really, thank you very much. I was told to stay around that 15-minute mark. I'm definitely here to, or 45-minute mark. I definitely wanted to answer some questions and just to have an open conversation. So I'll hand it over to Renee for that, or Florence for that, sorry.
That's okay. Everybody does that. I have two
that's
first names. Yeah, and I respond either way, so I'm not really helping them. So this was great. So we get a link to your ebook.
Yeah, I just put it there. Yeah.
Perfect.
It wasn't in my
So
buffer.
I can share that in my post-event survey because a few people didn't make it, but
Okay.
I know they registered, so they should get some of the questions. Anyone? I have a question.
Sure.
I'll wait to see if anybody else has anything in your projects that you want to bring. Everything will stay here. What happens in CIC stays in CIC. Anything, you guys? Okay, so I have a question. So
Sure.
It's not about my day job. It's more about what I'm doing as a chapter leader here.
Okay.
I'm finding that using data to be collecting the data is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Using the data is another challenge to the point where, like I kind of let it go last year. And it was like a mad dash trying to figure out what did we do? Like how many people did we register? What's our social media footprint, just trying to gather that and be able to tell the story. Because as a small chapter, I feel like we get lost in the sauce because we don't have the data to kind of show what we're doing, the value that we're adding.
Right.
And then I think I have a system now where I'm actually collecting the social media stuff, and I can see we're growing as far as our social media presence.
Yeah.
But what would be a good way to present data for something like this? It's not really it's not.
Oh yeah. Well, that's interesting. So you know what? And so I'll answer it in two ways. One is, do you know Power BI? Do you have access to?
I do not have Power BI.
Okay. Do you know Power BI?
I've heard of it, but never used it.
So Power BI. So I built a whole course on Power BI. Okay, and this course basically walks you from installing it to producing some of the same dashboards you just had.
Okay.
Some of the same dashboards you had can be done in Excel. So if you can pull your data out through Excel, you could create those same reports that you were showing using your data using Power BI.
That's
and
interesting.
It's all free.
I will look into, and that's the other challenge. With us being a chapter, we don't have the sponsors, we don't have the budget.
Yeah.
So a lot of the tools that we use for planning our social media, whatever,
are free.
The free accounts don't come with any data analytics.
Oh,
so
okay.
We've been flying blind basically for the longest.
Yeah.
Let's see, there's a comment.
So I'll put it in there. Here's a link to my Power BI course, but basically this takes you through 19 modules of installing it and using it, because I obviously and I have no idea how you guys can connect and what data sources you have, but this gives you all the files from an Excel perspective. You just basically change the contents and all the dashboards will come up. But this
wonderful.
will walk you through how to create, and if you're going to be in project management for a while, there's two tools, Tableau and Power BI. But I spent 14 years at Microsoft, so I know Power BI inside and out. And so two tools though, right? Those are the big boys when you're talking about dashboards and reports with project management data. So that tool, so I would suggest something like that. Power BI is free. It's a free account. Now, when you start sharing it and you get multiple users, there's complexity there, but you could do what you need to do essentially for free.
Got it. Thank
using
you.
Excel. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you for that.
of course.
So if you guys don't have any other questions, we can stop here. And
Okay.
as I said at the top of the hour, please go